Laurie Higgins-Kerley is the founder and executive director of the nonprofit organization Dove Creek Equine Rescue. This organization provides a variety of programs which focus on the healing partnership between horses and humans. As a certified coach through multiple platforms, Laurie has been facilitating workshops for more than 20 years. In addition to coaching with horses, her practices include medicine wheel teachings and ceremonies, drum circles, and yoga. Through her mastery of multiple modalities, Laurie has created truly unique offerings at the Dove Creek Equine Rescue, resulting in a one-of-a-kind experience for those ready to live their best life. Ow! I love it. If this doesn't align with SoLive, we focus on living life to the absolute best every day. Please welcome to our show, Laurie. Hi.
Hi. Great to be here.
And I have Tracy Keller here with me today as well. And Laurie is calling in from Canyon, Texas. For those of you who don't know, right south of Amarillo, it is absolutely a beautiful location. So we're excited to have you on the show today, Laurie.
Thank you.
Hi, Laurie. It's so good to hear your voice again.
Hi, Tracy.
We're going to get into the details a little bit later, but we've all met before, and we had so much fun participating. Not only fun, but we had such a great experience participating at her retreat that we actually didn't stop to do this recording then because we didn't want to miss a moment. And so we're circling back, and Laurie's calling in, and we're grateful for her time and patience with this. But starting out, Laurie, I'd really like for you just to give our listeners an idea of the programs that you offer through the Dove Creek Equine Rescue.
Okay, sure. So we are in our 9th year of being a nonprofit rescue, rehab, and adoption center. So what has evolved since we began, and it feels like lifetimes ago, but because the world has changed in the last 9 years, but what's really grown has been our volunteer program, which is our, open to the public, any age, of course, because horses, they don't discriminate, who they want to be around.
Yes.
So all ages are involved in our volunteer program, and it's really grown over the years. And actually, it used to be for many years, it was a 1 day a week program. People came on Saturday and they did all the facilities maintenance and groomed horses and fed. But with COVID, because there was shutdown last year and our volunteers couldn't come, we had such an outcry from everybody that they couldn't come down here because, as you know, it's a really beautiful place and we're in a really nice lush canyon most of the time, not all the time, but so because of that, and it was a large group that would come, Allie McEwen, our volunteer director, she decided to bring people in small groups, like pairs of 2 or 4. And because we're outside, it was safe. So splitting up the big group to every day, it ended up being every day of the week, she could bring the whole group in.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so we've gone from 1 day a week to volunteers every day. And that has been a huge blessing. It's taken a lot of the workload off of staff. So the volunteer program has been our largest program, again, because it's open to the public and all kinds of, individuals and groups come.
Yeah, and I love hearing that there's a positive outcome from this past, year and a half plus with COVID is actually the changes that it required you to make actually facilitated a better program for the horses. And now these individuals are also getting to connect with the horses.
Yes. More people now can come because now we allow more, anybody that wants to come because, most of the work really is outside. I mean, we also have a barn, but it's open air, as y'all know. So it's a safe place to be during these trying times. So that's our largest program. And then through the evolution of the rescue, I begin to see the healing power that horses have on humans. I already knew it because that's really why I started the rescue, is how much horses gave to me or helped me heal during my grief time when I lost my husband in 2008. And so I knew how much they help people heal. I couldn't really put it into words. I just experienced it. But I was so inspired by what they gave and what they helped me with, that I wanted to help them. So I started the rescue in 2012. But watching, listening to the volunteers, watching them interact with the horses, I realized that it really was, a real thing. It wasn't just me.
So
it happened to.
originally,
So
it was what you were going through was what inspired you to form the organization.
Yes, it was what I went through. Those probably 4 years when I was going through my grief, that they would surround me and make me part of the herd. Well, I just had a small herd out here at that time.
Laurie,
I was actually bored.
Would you mind if we actually talk a little bit more about that story, and just what you feel comfortable with? I
Sure.
understand that this is where the inspiration came from, but if you wouldn't mind sharing what you were going through and how you connected with the horses.
Okay, sure. So previous to Bob, my late husband's death, I was in the show world. So I had been around horses, but I was in competition. Loved it, had a great time. Won some nice accolades. And then, and I can't remember the correct sequence, but I just know that's the world I was in. And that's how I knew horses, because I was a competitive athlete growing up. So I loved being in competition. It was a lot of fun. And of course, I loved horses. Well, then he got sick, and I had stopped all that anyway, just because I had to take a break. But we had the ranch, and I just needed to pay more attention to that whole journey and the family. And I had 4 kids, we had all that going on. So
were you rescuing horses at that time?
No, I wasn't. That was previous. So that was in the 90s, early 2000. I think I stopped showing, I don't know, around 2002 or 3. I can't remember exactly. But anyway, the kids were getting really into sports, so I didn't have time for it. But we did have the ranch. We weren't doing a lot with the ranch, but I was, we'd go out there some, but I loved it. It was kind of our getaway. He got sick in 2006 and fought cancer for 1.5 years and passed in 2008. And, that's when my world crumbled. And, father of our 4 children. And it was just very devastating. It's hard to put that into words too, but those who have lost a loved one know what I'm talking about. But I was just, in this place of, it's like I was shattered. I didn't know who I was, what I wanted to do, what I was going to eat that day. I mean, I was just a real mess. Thank goodness I had 4 children, but they kept me going. 2 were at home at that time, and then 2 had already left home. So because they were older. Anyway, during that time after he passed, I would come out to the ranch, and there was just a few horses out here, and that's who I would hang out with, because, in the world that I lived in, people, my good friends, family, they don't really know what to do or say. Grief is a tough thing to know how to meet with somebody else and what to say or do. And there really wasn't anything people could do. I mean, except say, I'm sorry. And that's really about it.
And that's really...
But where I would find...
Oh, I'm sorry, Laurie. No, I was just relating to what you said. I think what makes it so hard, even listening to you tell this story, I'm trying to find words, to express back to you. And I think the point is that words do not resolve. They don't. It feels like it's not really going to be helpful. But I know it probably meant the world to have, your loved ones around, just expressing that they cared, even if it didn't resolve.
Yeah. And I think we all go through the grief journey differently. But I call it the journey of the soul, because it truly is one of the deepest journeys we'll go through in life. So in that very vulnerable, very shattered, I felt like I was fractured in so many ways. The horses, because of course there's no talking, because they have such a strong and more powerful heart field than we do, it was like this big hug I would feel when I would be around them. And so I felt peace. And it was like the only place I could feel peace was with the horses. And, in grief, feeling peace is is a salve. It's a balm, because the rest of the time I just felt so heavy and down and, physically sluggish. So that was kind of that's where that started. That was the pattern. I would look forward to coming and see the horses, and every time I would leave them, I felt better. So I loved that. I found there was something that I could feel better with. So through time, I just kept doing that and started tuning into the nonverbal world of just my heart space, and feeling like in some ways they were helping me mend my heart on that really, really deep level. And just over the next few years, it did happen. Time does heal. And they were part of my grief journey. So, that's when I say I was inspired by them, it's really goes deep, and it took years, but it's what came out of that whole journey was, I was left this ranch and I didn't really know what I was going to do with it, but I want to help them because I knew they needed a place to go when they fell on hard times too. Yes. So that's how it all started.
Well, and that's what I love about your organization is it's helping both sides. So you're rescuing horses, you're rehoming horses, you're caring for horses, and at the same token, they're caring for those who are assisting with the program. It's truly a win-win
Yes.
to where everyone there are no everybody's a beneficiary, I guess is what I'm trying to get at here.
Yeah.
And I love that about the entire program. And of course, that's what personally drew me to your program is I grew up around horses, and everything that you're saying, the nonverbal communication is real. They're just truly magical animals. So it's really wonderful to hear you share your experience with them, and I'm hoping after our listeners learn more about your program, they're going to have the same opportunity.
Oh yeah, great.
So Laurie, after you had these experiences what was your next step? How did you go? I mean, you went from, okay, I know that these horses walked me through this time of grief. Then what? I mean, you were feeling the healing. You were, experiencing what the horses were giving you. What was your next step? I mean, what brought that into the programs you have now?
Yes.
Well, I would say that, when I started thinking, there came a point in time in my journey of healing that I thought, well, what do I want to do now? I mean, I was a mother of 4. I had, pretty high level athletes, and they were, one was going to college. And so I was pretty wrapped up with their careers. But like I said, I'd been showing. And so I'd always said, well, I'm going to get back to showing again. So as I went through the grief journey, that was so far off the radar for me. It just didn't matter anymore, that competition. My heart space had been so opened, and I just always felt so much better around the horses. So of course I wanted to be around them more. So I started thinking about, I had a friend here in Amarillo that had started a rescue many years ago, and her name's Terry. And I had contacted her and I said, well, I have some land out here, and I know you're always trying to either find fosters or adopt horses, so maybe I could help you. So I ended up taking a couple of hers, maybe more than that, maybe 3 or 4. And as I would take a horse for her, because I had stalls and runs and all that, that you've seen. So I just wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I wanted to help. That was really first and foremost. So as I took a horse from her or helped her out with one to foster, I would talk to her about, what she was doing. Excuse me. And she, I was learning about what it meant to run a rescue. So she was teaching me. Nice. And so I think, it just sort of evolved that
it wasn't
maybe
planned.
That's what I want to do.
It just naturally
I love that.
Yes.
I absolutely love that. I feel like when we live life in this flow state, that the next door opens and we know what to do.
Yes. Yeah. Because I was really in the unknown for quite a while. Like, I don't like life. It's hard. I don't like where I am. But anyway, and just that part of it was fun. And so little did she or I know that I was starting to learn about, oh, I think maybe I could do this. So I finally decided, I'm going to give it a go. I don't really know how to do this. I didn't know the financial side, I can tell you that. So I've given actual talks on what not to do when you want to start a rescue. So just because I learned the hard way.
Hey, that's really helpful too.
Yeah, you got to learn what not to do. And I mean, now there's all kinds of books on and literature on, how to do it. But I just said, I talked to my attorney and I said, I think I want to try this. And he goes, okay, all you got to have is 2 other people. So 3 of y'all, can incorporate. Mm-hmm. So we did it. And I just said, let's see how it goes. And one of my very good friends was one of the first board members. And so it's kind of cool that, she saw the vision. And I mean, in the first few years, I thought, what the heck did I get into? Because then I realized it costs a lot of money and I couldn't keep using my own money. So
right.
That's usually how my heart leads me too, is I'll start something like, yes, this is my calling. And then I realize how much it cost.
Yeah. And you should probably figure those things out before. And I had an idea, but I thought, well, people are just everybody's going to want to help me. I mean, that was my illusion. So that wasn't the case. And so anyway, but I have learned, I mean, fast forward to today, I have learned so much about fundraising, and it really was just find the right people to help guide me and, form the correct board, mm-hmm. The best board you can, that people that can help you. So, I mean, I've fallen down for sure. I've made mistakes, but, and I'm still learning. I'm sure I will till the day I take my last breath, but it's really been such a fulfilling thing to do, to watch, taking horses that are just, on their last leg and watch them come back. It inspires all of us around here. And I want to live inspired, on a daily basis. That's part of my mission, personal mission, is to be inspired. And these horses inspire me. Every day.
That's reflected on anybody who participates with you receives that inspiration.
Yeah.
I keep wanting to relate. I'm going to wait till we get to the story where we visited you, but I left your ranch with so much inspiration and literally turned a new page for what was not starting out to be a great year, has in fact been an incredible year.
It was definitely a turning point.
Oh yeah. Some stuff happened. And I'm excited to share about that. Mm-hmm. Before we continue with the horses, I know, Laurie, you have a pretty incredible educational and teaching background that's in addition to the horses. And you're very humble, so everybody, you may have to go onto her website and read her bio. But, I know you've been doing workshops for more than 20 years. I know that you do work with shamanic teachings, chakra balance, clearing, Kundalini. Am I saying that right? Kundalini Yoga.
Kundalini Yoga.
Talk to us about some of your other practices in addition to your coaching with horses.
Okay, sure. I would say back in early 2000s, I was at a pretty low point in my life. I had kind of lost my way and seemingly had it all. I mean, I had a great husband, 4 kids, a great life, but I had a lot of pain. I was internal pain I was dealing with, and it really stemmed from my childhood. I had a violent childhood in many ways, not always, but in many ways, and it just affected me. I was left with some trauma, and it was coming up, and so I just was on a search to find, where I could get help and heal it. And where I landed was with some shamanic healers. They were practicing medicine wheel teaching, and they had a school, and I went to it, and it was 18 months back in 2001, and I just loved the medicine wheel concept, that languaging. It was more of a holistic way to see us, ourselves, and all of creation. And it sort of brought it all back together because I felt, again, pretty fractured. I mean, I just felt like I had lost who I was. You know, being a doctor's wife and mother of four, there's a lot of expectation, or at least I felt that. There was a lot of expectation of me, and I felt like I was just faking everything. And so there was just this part of me that needed to find out who I am. And so I went to that school and learned a lot of medicine wheel teachings. And so learning about the concept of the circle and the wheel and what that represents and all the ways to study the wheel, especially how to study myself in a that way, to look at it that way. And then the medicine wheel concept also taught me about the interconnectedness of everything, of us with the rest of nature. Mm-hmm. And again, that was a big split I felt like I'd had. So reconnecting with creation, doing a lot of ceremonies outside in nature, learning a lot of teachings and tools. I mean, it was a profoundly healing time in my life. So I felt like I had, you know, in a way come home, because my experience in school was not that great. I was not a very good student. And so this was the kind of school I thought, oh, I could have done this if school was like this.
You got the right topic now. The other topics were probably boring.
So. Yeah. I was just not a very, you know, I'm a kinesthetic learner. I have to be doing. So mental, you know, the writing and sitting in a desk and that linear way of thinking, just, I couldn't resonate. Mm-hmm. So now I understood why I was such a poor student. So it was just the wrong environment for me. I had found the right environment, and it was just fascinating to discovery after discovery, and connect to a much bigger picture than what I had known. So that's why I began to live the teachings. And there were a couple of more schools, and today I'm apprenticed, you know, to the Deer Tribe in Phoenix, and I have some great teachers there, and just continue to study because it makes sense to me. And so I teach others in the workshops about the concept of the wheel and how to understand ourselves and the 5 aspects of ourselves in a much more holistic way. So that's the and I love ceremony. I love to go outside and you know, connect to nature in different ways, because I feel like our answers are in nature, because there's no agenda in nature.
Exactly.
People have agendas.
Yes.
I don't care who they are. You know, we're just human, as good as people can be, that we still have an agenda. So nature doesn't.
You know what I'm hearing?
And then,
go ahead, Laurie.
Go ahead.
No. Finish the end then.
Stopping point.
Okay. Oh. So what I'm hearing?
Well, I was just going on to the next thing.
There's so many good things, but I do want to share this from what I'm gathering from your story, is that there's times in your life where you've kind of, you know, either hit a wall or you felt shattered or you're going through a painful time. And the consistency in your story is you found something incredibly beautiful and healing on the other side of that. And so I'm listening how you're continuing to evolve, and you get into a negative space of some form, and then you emerge with this gift, which, as I'm thinking that in my head, reminds me of the topic that we focused on when we came to your workshop, which was the Phoenix Rising.
Yes.
And
yes.
You are truly a tribute to that as you continue just to break through the next ceiling, and just not only find a gift out of that, what seemed like terrible experience, but also share it with others. And I love it. I do. And I interrupted you to say that. So if you wanted to, I'm sorry about that, but I was putting all that together. I'm like, she is the Phoenix Rising.
That's right.
Well, I think you're right. And that, I mean, I now can see what you're saying. That's definitely been I've done it over and over, you know, when I've hit these deep places of loss. And so going to that school, the shaman school, what I was able to do is let go of old programs that were not me. It was just from somewhere else, that I was trying to live a life that somebody else wanted me to live. And so letting go of all that old programming, social conditioning that I think we all need to do, because that's how we find out who we really are. And that, I mean, it was a death, a death and a rebirth over and over. So yes, I love the image. And that's probably my favorite workshop too, because, here we are again as a collective going through death and rebirth.
And speaking of the wheel, can you let our listeners know just on a surface level what the wheel represents, some of the different points of the wheel, just to give them a little bit of insight?
Yeah, I mean, so when y'all came, I think I brought out a few wheels, because there's like thousands of wheels, and it's just really a way to look at anything. So it's like if we take a human, the 5 aspects of self wheel. That's the one I work on a lot with people. So there's points on the wheel. So there's directional points, north, south, east, west, and they all have a meaning. So learning about the meaning of the east, depending on what wheel you're studying. So for instance, with a person, the east is the spiritual aspect. In the south, in the bottom of the wheel, is the emotional aspect. In the west is the physical aspect, and in the north is the mental aspect. And in the center is the creative, we call it the life force sexual energy. It's the creative, passionate energy that we all have. And so each direction has a meaning, and it's a way to see, like, all those aspects, of course, are all merged within us, but a way to sort of, put it on a piece of paper and look at it with a little bit of, objectivity.
Right.
Because sometimes it's so hard to, access all of the, we want more clarity. And so if you can put it in front of us, and it really, when you have a circle on a piece of paper, there's no one place better than the other. So it's also a symbol of equality and balance. And again, most of us are searching for that. And so taking the human aspects wheel, we can look at, we can take apart, where is somebody out of balance? Is it their emotional aspect? Because a lot of people get stuck with emotions, which is where horses come in. Right. And then the mental monkey mind, not being able to calm our minds. That's another aspect where people get stuck. And so what I've developed is, and this is from my teachings too, is tools and practices to find balance again in those aspects. Physically, a lot of us have physical issues we're dealing with here, whether they're acute or chronic, but, bringing balance back to the physical, So that's kind of been my modality, my model by which I see everything and that I teach. Because it just makes sense to me. It's the most holistic way to see a human is in that way.
Well, like you said, it doesn't matter what part of the wheel you're on. There's no judgment there.
Right. And, there's wheels after wheels. I mean, there's wheels. There's a wheel that we've studied recently on forgiveness. There's a grief wheel. There's a loss wheel. There's just wheels really for everything. And I have a very thick book of wheels, but I love working a wheel because it's, to me, how you can see the whole of anything, all the aspects, not just, I don't feel like we were really meant to, learn that linear fashion. There's a beginning and there's an end, because there's really not. The wheel is, there's no beginning, there's no end.
So then
there's just movement.
I love that. So you have these two, you had the horses that were taking you through the grief, and then you had this foundation of the wheel of all the teachings. How did you come to a place of like, hey, I can combine these? And how did that begin to unravel?
Well, I think I was doing the medicine wheel, teachings and practices for many years. And then, so in 2002, I graduated from that school, and I just really was immersed in those ways, those teachings. We did workshops around them. We did ceremonies. And then in 2013, I went to, or 2012, I can't remember exactly, but I went and I went through Kundalini Yoga teacher training. So it was like, okay, there's time to bring in another practice, another healing method, healing practice. So Kundalini was actually something we did in the shaman school, but it was just as a tool. It really wasn't to become certified. So I really loved it then. So we went through teacher training in Santa Fe, several of us that have trained together. And that was very profound because Kundalini Yoga is the yoga of awareness. It's one of the oldest yogas. It's called the Royal Yoga. It used to be only practiced among Sikhs, the holy ones with the turbans. And so Yogi Bhajan brought it to America in the late 60s and made it a householder's yoga. So it's all about moving that creative energy that we all, have within us, the energy of awareness, moving it up our spine through our breath, through movement, through some chanting. So it's a beautiful practice, and it really wakes you up. So actually, when I went to that school in Santa Fe, I completed a piece of my grief time. So it was a beautiful experience. And so learning how to breathe, different breath techniques, I find are extremely important. And combining that with the medicine wheel teachings is, it really makes it a very deep and rich way to awaken and heal.
And then you incorporate the horses into all of that.
And then the horses.
Literally a one-of-a-kind experience.
Yes.
when you go to, and participate in your programs there. Where else can you find Kundalini Yoga, medicine wheel, fire ceremony, truly spiritual connections between you and the horse? I've never seen a place with such offerings, and that is why I'm so excited that we're getting to share this today.
That's right.
Yeah, I tell you, and the horses, I knew they had a power, but and I think I stopped here a minute ago about watching the volunteers speak about how much they loved and that healing words they would use when they were working with the horses. I realized, it's probably time to go get certified in equine therapy or equine assisted healing. And so that was in 2016. So that came after the yoga. And I knew by then, you asked me when I thought about weaving it. That's when I started thinking, oh, I could weave the medicine wheel and Kundalini and the horses, because the horses to me are a medicine wheel. They're a being that represents coherence within the heart. And so being around them, we can actually experience in a sensory way, like physically, we can experience what coherence feels like rather than think about it. You can actually find that in yoga too, for sure. And so combining these modalities together really creates that deep state that, it's often hard to find in our kind of daily lives. So yeah, horses, I could talk about them forever.
That's something Tracy and I and about 7 or 8 other SoLive family members got to participate in a little earlier this year, back in June. We all hopped a plane and flew up to Amarillo, dropped down. It was a pretty short drive, 30, 40 minutes maybe from the airport, to go visit Laurie. And the cool thing about it, I don't know if our listeners have ever been in that area. I had a long time ago. I didn't really recall what it looked like. And I remember seeing pictures from your website of this ranch, and we're driving. I'm like, there is no way that place is here. It's just literally flat, destitute. It was like, where is this place? And I'm looking at the GPS, and it's like 5 miles. I'm And then all of a sudden, you just drop down into this canyon, this oasis of, like you said a while ago, it's not always lush, but we were there, and absolutely this beautiful time. You go from brown to green, and you kind of go beneath the horizon into another planet, is the best way to describe the experience. And it was just really cool, just arriving and seeing the surroundings and knowing, like, oh my goodness, we're about to have an experience of a lifetime. And
what was really exciting too is that none of us really knew what we were walking into. We had read a little bit about you, that there was a horse rescue. We had no idea, which I also thought was
exciting.
It was incredibly exciting. And we were just so open to what the weekend would bring. And wow.
Yeah. So what did you think when you saw this crazy crew coming out of the, Ubers and Lyfts?
Well, we were so excited first to have y'all because of the organization y'all, have created and share. And so that was an exciting part for us. We had just come off 2 other workshops previous to y'all coming. So we were really, we had gotten our feet under us. And so, had learned from, we're not going to do that
warm
next
up.
time. We're not going to do that. Yeah. So we had kind of fine-tuned things with Jody and Rebecca, who also do the equine assisted healing. Yeah.
And, I love them.
And we had, yeah, they're great. They're really spectacular women and do great work too. But having them, the Kundalini part and the medicine wheel part, it's me, I'm the one that brings that. But then having them there to talk about, why do we use horses? Why are horses so good? Why are they so powerful in facilitating healing within us? Having them there to, share that and talk about, what it is about horses. That's fun. And help, do the sessions that we did, which always reveal new discoveries that I think you both have spoken to me about, and how cool that is. I mean, how they help us uncover the diamond in the rough. So, horses. There's been a lot of study done on them, and a lot of research being done on why this bidirectional healing happens. And I think I talked to y'all about it. How much stronger their electromagnetic field is than ours. And their heart field is enormous.
You can feel it walking in.
And because theirs is stronger than ours, they can regulate our electromagnetic field, and they help regulate our emotional state. So that's what's, so there's science behind it because of their nature and how they're wired. That's what's so cool, because they're high sensory prey animals, and they just because of their nature, they help us go deeper and invite us to explore in those deeper caverns within us and help us release what no longer serves us. It's just a beautiful thing.
I remember when we actually when I was inviting people to go on this trip with us, I was really excited because the individuals that were coming, I just couldn't wait to see their experience with horses. I mentioned earlier, I grew up around horses. Horses have always been special to me. I got to learn after visiting your ranch a little more about why, but I couldn't wait to share that experience with others. And I think the biggest eye-opener for me, as we walk into the barn and we're getting ready to do the part of the program that involves the horses, was what I experienced during that whole thing. Because I was really looking at everybody else like, oh, I can't wait to see how they react and what they think and their experience. And, I've been around horses my entire life, and so this is just normal. But the way that Jody, Rebecca, and you presented that part of the program and what was asked of us and the horses, to where we just kind of existed next to each other and let the horses pick us. And not to go into all the details, it's definitely something that you'd want to experience yourself. But it was just so eye-opening for me that, wait a minute, I thought I was providing this experience for somebody else. I didn't realize what I was going to get out of it as a person who's been around horses my entire life. And I still hold that dear, and I keep it in mind when I'm around my own horses today. Like it's changed my relationship with them for sure.
Well, Shanna, what I've seen, and I just saw this in a session that I did recently, is how, because the horse laid down the whole session with the client that was in there in the round pen. And so what I realized is they, even when y'all were here, horses help us go to that vulnerable spot, or they encourage us to, because they help hold that safe place for us to do that.
Right.
And it's difficult to go to those vulnerable places. It just is. It's scary. And so I'm seeing it over and over, and I do it over and over. I can get to these places that seem scary or maybe unknown, or, I'm just unsure about. And I was blown away the other day, and then I was still blown away, every time I do sessions, I see it, but it's helped me really see wow, they teach us about, they're great teachers about exploring those vulnerable places.
Right. And something you said, Shanna, about the horses picking us, when you, Laurie, brought the horses out in the beginning, I remember my eyes caught this one horse, and I was like, that's my horse. That's my horse. That's right. Uh-huh. And then I'm looking around, and you're talking about all the different horses, and this other horse is literally looking into my soul. Not the one I picked. Literally, he picked me. Mm-hmm. And there was no doubt. And what I loved about him was the horse that I was picking was the show horse, and he was beautiful, and he was like the spotlight. The one that picked me was grounded and could see through all the BS and would literally spoke to my soul. And I was like, okay, well, there you have it. And that horse, oh my goodness.
We call him the shaman.
Which
is the perfect fit for Tracy.
Yeah, he is.
So what you were saying, Shanna, is the horses literally will pick you when you can let down your guard and kind of surrender. I kind of felt this surrender in that moment of like, oh, this is what I'm on a real journey here, and I'm not leading. So I just kind of let everything go. And, as we were talking earlier, we don't want to give anything away because you really do want to experience this. The horse walks you through the deeper parts of your existence that you didn't even know were there, and you just come out transformed. It's the only way I can say it. And you can't pull one over on the horse either. I mean, I remember this one part of that I was like, well, yeah, I can do this, and he wouldn't move. He stood there and he was like, no, you can't, because you have not really dealt with this. And so we had a little discussion, talked about it, let it sink in, saw it from a couple of different angles, and then we moved on through it effortlessly. And those were the things that actually changed when I got back home. The very things that I was trying to tell him, no, I'm not stuck in this. I'm really not. I got this. And he wouldn't move until something had shifted inside of me.
Yes. Exactly. You just said it really well.
The best way to say it without actually experiencing it yourself. Of course, everybody can take a peek by watching our YouTube show, where we documented our experience and outcome from this incredible journey to visit Laurie. But the real way to get the experience is to actually go and participate in one of her programs yourself. Whether we're talking about from, if you just want to go up and love a horse, they need healing, they need care, or if it's something, personally that you're going through and you need healing, I guarantee you it's always going to be both.
Right.
But whatever the motivation is to get you up there, I can't stress enough that it will be well worth your time. I mentioned earlier, Laurie, our program was called Phoenix Rising, and I know you have several or a handful of different programs that focus on maybe grief or anger, and actually I can let you clarify on that. But with Phoenix Rising, what I really loved about the topic was, like we talked about earlier with you, is what is it that we're struggling with now, and where are we in this transition from, the old story dying to the rebirth. Would you mind just sharing a little bit about what Phoenix Rising means to you? I mean, just to give them a better understanding of what that means. I've tried, but I think it would come better from you.
Well, I think you definitely said it. And it's so experiential. And so I think one of the points I made or wanted to share with y'all was, what part of the cycle is it? Are you in the death cycle? Is something dying? Are you in that rebirth, the beginning of the rebirth? Are you in that space between, or where you're in the unknown? Because sometimes death can be real physical. I mean, you feel it physically, or it can be emotional, whatever part of it you're really going through. It could be the loss of someone, or in a relationship or something, job, home, health, or are you in that in-between space, or are you in the rebirth, time where you're starting to feel that new story evolving. So it was about, what is your new story now that you've gone through this, you've discovered some things about yourself. I loved that part at the end where y'all illustrated your story, your new story. And because, you let the old story go.
That's right.
And whatever part of your story, that old story was, you're able to let that go. So that's kind of, to me, knowing where you are in the Phoenix's journey. And I think that weekend I referenced the Phoenix as the feminine power Phoenix, the goddess image, the goddess archetype. So it's a powerful metaphor. It's a powerful symbol. It's a powerful archetype to study, because, it's something we can imagine, we can imagine with, I imagine, and to see the illuminations that come along the way through the Phoenix, that archetype.
And the best part about it for me is at the end of the retreat, where we got to illustrate our new worlds. The cool part about it is it actually came true.
Yay!
And not to get in, this will have to be a whole nother podcast. I'd love to talk actually about our own personal transitions there. But I remember leaving there going, okay, I'm ready. And now looking back, we're in September. This was back in June. I'm like, holy moly, look at all this stuff that has transpired since then. And I'm just so grateful for it. So, Laurie, if our listeners want to learn more about any of your programs, or importantly participate in them, what's the best place to do that? And sign up on your website, social media. How do you like people to connect with you?
Well, yeah, thank you. So ledbyhorses.org is my website, and a lot of the information's on there, and my number's on there, so people can call me, they can text me, they can email me. So any of those ways, I'm available. And whether it's individual sessions or groups, I love small groups. My team loves small groups, like y'all. Y'all are just fun. And what was so great about y'all is you were ready to dive deep. And in a short amount of time, we were all very, it was great to watch all the rebirths happening, or just the new awareness, the lights coming on in whatever way it was. Just beautiful to watch, just beautiful. But those are the ways,
perfect,
people can get me.
And we'll put this information in the show notes as well, just to make sure that you can't miss the opportunity on how to connect with this great program. Laurie, I just appreciate your time so much today and in the past, and I'm looking forward to whatever we get to do with you in the future, because you're not done. We're not done with you yet. You're stuck with us.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
And we're going to put in the show notes how you can support a horse.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yes. Yeah. We always need that for sure.
Yeah. Horses cost money. Absolutely. I can attest to that. And Laurie has a bunch of them. And the great thing about it is they just all have this incredible story. And now, because they're at her rescue, this incredible life. And so...
Yes. And that website is that's another website,
okay.
if I may
Please.
say it. That's DoveCreekEquineRescue.org. That's our
Gotcha.
ranch, and that's the rescue. Yeah.
Perfect. Today we have learned how Dove Creek Equine Rescue founder Laurie Higgins-Kerley took devastating times in her life and turned them into blessings for others. She truly is a wonderful example of the Phoenix Rising process. Through her organization, Laurie and her team not only rescue, rehabilitate, retrain, and rehome horses, they also provide wonderful healing and learning experiences for people. I'd like to invite you to experience the healing partnership between horses and humans yourself by checking out Dove Creek Equine Rescue.